You've crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. The storm that tried to end you has spent its last drop of thunder. For too long, the waves roared against your name. The darkness whispered lies about your destiny, and shadows celebrated what they thought was your defeat. But the truth stands firm. You didn't just survive. You conquered. You have overcome what others never could. And heaven itself has recorded your victory. There was a moment, wasn't there, when you thought it was over, when your strength slipped through your fingers like sand, and every prayer felt unanswered. Yet, even then, a quiet voice refused to let you fall apart. That voice wasn't weakness, it was the breath of God keeping your spirit alive when everything else collapsed. You thought you were forgotten, but you were being refined. You thought it was delay, but it was divine preservation. You've been through valleys no one saw, cried tears no one comforted, and carried weights no one recognized. And still, you kept walking. You didn't realize that every silent step was shaking hell itself, that every time you chose faith over fear, heaven marked your progress. The suffering wasn't a punishment, it was a prophecy. You were being shaped into someone unbreakable. The pain that once imprisoned you has now become your passport to power. You no longer tremble at what once terrified you. The same walls that caged you are now testimonies that echo your endurance. You learned that strength isn't in never falling, it's in rising again when no one expected you to. What tried to destroy you only revealed what could not be destroyed. You have emerged from the fire different, clearer, wiser, unshakably anchored. The noise that used to distract you no longer has access. The opinions that used to wound you no longer penetrate your peace. You are walking proof that storms end, that grace restores, and that purpose survives the flames. The chains have broken, and the echo of that breaking still reverberates through your spirit. The Word of God declares in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 37, "No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us." That is your declaration now. You are not just a survivor, you are more than a conqueror. The battle you faced wasn't random, it was proof that you were carrying something powerful enough to be fought. But now, the fight is finished. You have endured the crushing, and now comes the oil. You have endured the breaking, and now comes the breakthrough. There is no going back to who you were before this storm. That version of you served its purpose, but now a stronger, more radiant version stands in its place. The lessons learned in pain have become weapons of wisdom. The humility that came through loss has become your armor. And the peace you carry now isn't fragile, it's forged in fire. This moment is heaven's announcement, the cycle is over. You will not revisit that same pain again. The attacks that used to drain you have lost their permission to touch you. The season of testing has turned into a season of testimony. You are walking into answered prayers, divine favor, and supernatural rest. The enemy's strategy has expired, so lift your head, straighten your shoulders, step forward as one who knows heaven is backing every move. You have permission to rejoice again. You have permission to breathe without fear of losing what you've built. The worst has already happened, and you outlived it. That means nothing ahead can defeat you, because you've already beaten what was meant to break you. From this moment on, every sunrise is prophetic. Every breath you take declares, "I made it." You are not who you used to be. You are refined gold, proof that endurance is not in vain. Heaven celebrates you, and the earth will soon recognize what heaven already knows you've overcome. If you know this word is yours, if you feel the confirmation deep in your spirit, let it be known. Like, share, and subscribe so the message of victory reaches every chosen one still fighting their storm. And comment the number 777 below as a prophetic act that your cycle of struggle is over and your season of peace has begun. You are entering a season where your peace will speak louder than your past. What once drained you will now strengthen you. The same ground watered by your tears will bloom with joy. Nothing was wasted. Every loss prepared the soil for your divine abundance to rise. Heaven is aligning everything around you. Connections, opportunities, and timing are falling perfectly into place. What you used to chase will now find you. Rest in this truth. God's promises are not delayed, they are maturing. The appointed time has come, and you are ready for overflow. Walk boldly into what's next. The past no longer defines you, it refines you. You carry authority now, the kind that shifts atmospheres. Move forward without hesitation, for grace has gone ahead of you. The story of your struggle is now heaven's favorite testimony. You've known the kind of battles that leave invisible scars. Not all wounds bleed, some stay hidden beneath the surface, quietly shaping who you become. There were seasons where the pressure was unbearable, when every direction seemed closed, and every word of hope felt distant. Yet somehow, you kept moving. You were never abandoned, you were being remade. The warfare that surrounded you wasn't just about circumstances, it was about identity. Darkness recognized your calling long before you did. That's why the attacks came from unexpected places. People you trusted misunderstood you. Opportunities slipped through your fingers. Doors closed that you were certain God had opened. But those moments didn't destroy you, they revealed your foundation. What was shaken was never meant to stand. What endured was the real you, steadfast, sharpened, chosen. You learned how to breathe again in the middle of chaos. You learned how to speak peace into storms that once terrified you. And most importantly, you learned that faith isn't about control, it's about surrender. The fire that surrounded you was never meant to consume you, only to consume what no longer served your destiny. The pain that once made no sense now looks like prophecy fulfilled. Every step was necessary. Every tear was sacred. There was a point where you thought you'd lost everything, but heaven was not subtracting, it was simplifying. The noise had to quiet for you to hear the voice of God clearly. The distractions had to fall away for you to notice the divine blueprint already unfolding. You were never losing ground. You were being repositioned. The same pressure that once crushed you has now produced oil, the kind that anoints leaders, healers, and prophets. You see, destiny rarely announces itself with comfort. It introduces itself through conflict. The more you resisted change, the more intense the shaking became, until finally you surrendered, and that was when transformation began. The old version of you couldn't carry the new assignment. The wilderness was never punishment, it was your initiation. The Word of God speaks in the first letter of Peter, chapter 5, verse 10. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. That is what's happening now. The suffering was temporary, but the strengthening is eternal. The restoration is not coming, it has begun. The places where you were broken are now the very areas where divine power flows. The shame that once silenced you has turned into authority. You speak now from experience, not theory. You walk with a quiet confidence that only comes from surviving what should have ended you. And though the memories still linger, they no longer sting. They've become teachers, reminders that grace works even in the ashes. You've realized that not everything lost was meant to return. Some things had to fall away so that glory could take their place. You've been emptied only to be filled with something weightier: purpose, clarity, and unshakable peace. Now, every breath you take carries gratitude. You no longer ask, "Why did this happen?" but rather, "What did it teach me?" That's how you know the healing has taken root. You're not just free from the pain, you're free from needing explanations. That is true victory. Your story is no longer about survival, it's about transformation. The same storm that threatened to drown you became the wind that lifted you higher. You have endured the breaking, and now you embody the blessing. You are proof that God can take what was meant for evil and turn it into unshakable glory. You are no longer defined by what happened to you, but by how you rose from it. Every shattered piece has found its purpose. You've become whole in ways that pain could never explain, radiant in ways only endurance could birth. You are light after the fire. Heaven did not waste your suffering. The very nights that felt endless have now birthed mornings filled with wisdom. You see patterns others miss, sense truth others ignore. You've become a guardian of discernment, a living reminder that divine strength grows best in secret pain. The silence that once felt unbearable now feels sacred. You no longer rush through stillness, you rest in it. You understand that peace isn't absence of noise, but mastery of response. Stillness became your teacher, and through it, heaven taught you to listen deeply. Your spirit carries new authority now. Words that leave your mouth carry weight because they've been purified by endurance. You don't speak from theory, you speak from survival. Every declaration you make echoes power because you've lived through what others only preach. You have learned to forgive without needing an apology, to release without bitterness, and to love without fear. That is divine maturity. You don't seek revenge or validation anymore. Your peace is proof that you've already won the unseen battle. Now, as you step forward, understand this: the storm didn't end you, it announced you. You are not emerging from defeat but rising from refining. The fire is behind you, the crown before you. This is your afterglow, unshaken, undefeated, unstoppable. There came a season when silence became your only companion. You stopped explaining yourself, stopped defending what they could never understand. It wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. You realized that not everyone could hear from the frequency heaven called you on. Your separation wasn't rejection, it was redirection. You walked through days when prayers felt unanswered, but they were only being rearranged. Heaven wasn't ignoring you, it was preparing you for something weightier. Those slammed doors that left you breathless were not punishment, they were mercy in disguise. God saw what you could not, protecting you from places that looked right but carried hidden traps. Your faith was forged in that silence. You learned that divine quiet is not absence, it's classroom. You began hearing God, not just in words, but in patterns, timings, and whispers. The silence stretched your faith until it stopped depending on proof. It taught you how to trust what you couldn't trace. Sometimes, God hides you to heal you. He doesn't hide what's broken, He hides what's being restored. While others thought you were forgotten, Heaven was watching over you like a seed beneath the soil. The concealment was not confinement, it was cultivation. You were growing where no one could see. And that's why your next unveiling will shock many. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17, "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord," even when you didn't fight back. Heaven did. Every false word spoken against you has been overturned. Every hidden scheme collapsed before it reached you. The spiritual resistance you endured was proof of your rising authority. You've learned that the most powerful response to chaos is peace. The moment you stopped reacting, you started reigning. The moment you stopped chasing validation, you found revelation. Now you walk differently, quieter, but stronger. You've discovered that maturity doesn't need to announce itself. It simply endures and shines. You've grown into someone who doesn't panic when heaven is silent. Because you've learned that silence is sacred. You've become fluent in the language of stillness. Heaven is saying, "It's time. The hidden years are over. You've been refined, rebuilt, and restored for this very unveiling. The silence was never your end, it was your setup. Everything you lost in the quiet will return multiplied, purified, and sanctified. Type "I rise again" in the comments. Do it not as routine, but as revelation. Because this is not just another phrase, it's a declaration that your silence has ended. Your season of hiding has lifted, and your voice is rising in divine timing. When you type it, you're proclaiming that the valley has become your training ground and that the dawn is finally breaking over your destiny. When you type "I rise again," you're not just speaking into a comment box, you're prophesying to your own future. Those 3 words are not empty affirmations, they are resurrection commands. Every place in your life that once felt dead begins to hear those words and stir with new life. Heaven moves when faith is spoken, and those words are the sound of your comeback, echoing through eternity. When you say "I rise again," you are acknowledging that the silence didn't kill you, it crowned you. It means you've accepted the process, embraced the pain, and chosen to believe that your story doesn't end in defeat. It's your public declaration that you are stepping out of the shadows, unashamed of your scars, because those very scars now shine as proof of survival. When you write "I rise again," you are aligning your voice with heaven's decree. You're saying, "I agree with what God says about me." Every time you speak those words, spiritual weight shifts. Chains that clung quietly to your confidence begin to loosen. The words of others lose their power, and the truth of God begins to define you again. When you declare "I rise again," you're breaking partnership with fear. You are refusing to bow to disappointment, choosing faith over fatigue, destiny over doubt. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about declaring that even in imperfection, you are moving forward. The darkness had its moment, but light is reclaiming its ground through your voice. And finally, when you stand in agreement with "I rise again," heaven recognizes it as covenant language. It's a sign that you're ready not to return to who you were, but to step fully into who you were always meant to become. The old season has ended. Grace has called your name, and resurrection power is already in motion. Your rise is not quiet, it is radiant. Every unseen victory is now being revealed. What once broke you has become the foundation of your unshakable faith. Heaven celebrates your resilience. This is your moment of becoming, your season of revelation. Stand tall. Your story now carries divine authority and eternal purpose. There are moments in every chosen one's journey where everything goes silent, not because nothing is happening, but because everything is. Beneath the surface, heaven rearranges the unseen. You can't always perceive it, but you can feel it, a quiet stirring, a gentle push that tells you you're on the edge of something sacred. You've walked through shadows that tried to convince you the light was gone, but deep within, a flicker remained, too stubborn to die. That flicker was purpose waiting, breathing, whispering, "Hold on." Even when your strength wavered, grace stood guard. You were never forgotten. You were being rebuilt in the hidden place where glory grows. The transformation wasn't instant. It came slowly, like dawn breaking after a long night. One decision at a time, one prayer at a time, one surrender after another. You learned that true victory isn't loud. It's quiet, persistence. The world celebrates visible success, but heaven honors the one who keeps walking in the dark, trusting that light still exists. Through that process, you discovered a truth few understand. God doesn't waste pain. Every trial carved depth into your spirit. Every delay shaped discernment. Every disappointment turned into a doorway of revelation. The weight you once cursed became the anchor that kept you grounded in storms. Now you see what others miss. The crushing was not cruelty, it was consecration. The Word of God reveals in the book of Psalms, chapter 30, verse 5, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning." And indeed, morning has come. The tears that once blurred your vision have cleared your sight. You can finally see with clarity what left you was never meant to last. What remained is eternal. You are no longer reaching for temporary validation. You're standing in everlasting purpose. You've learned the sacred rhythm of waiting, how heaven works in seasons, how every pause has purpose. There's a grace in the waiting, a beauty in the unseen. While others rushed, you learned to rest. You realized that divine timing cannot be forced, and what God has prepared cannot be taken. This wisdom became your peace. You also learned the language of restoration. Not everything broken is meant to stay shattered. Some things return, renewed and refined. Others stay gone, making space for what's greater. You stopped begging for what wasn't built to stay. And that was the moment everything began to align. Your surrender became the doorway for restoration. Now you move differently, slower, but stronger. You don't react from emotion, you respond from revelation. You've learned that silence can speak, and that stillness can strike. The same heart that once trembled is now steady. The same spirit that once bent under pressure now stands tall, clothed in peace. You no longer fear endings, because you've seen how God writes new beginnings out of ashes. You've seen Him turn disappointment into direction, rejection into redirection, and through it all, you've come to understand that being chosen doesn't mean being comfortable. It means being carved for something greater. You carry depth because you've endured breaking. You carry light because you've walked through darkness. There is a divine boldness in you now. You don't need to announce your return. Your presence carries the evidence. Heaven's fingerprints are all over your story. You walk into rooms that once rejected you and bring peace where there was once confusion. The same people who questioned your silence will soon witness your strength. You are not chasing purpose anymore, you are walking in it. You've outgrown the need to prove anything to anyone. Validation no longer drives you. Destiny does. The voice within you speaks louder than the noise around you. And that's how you know you've matured. The night was long. Yes, but it wasn't wasted. It became your teacher. It stripped you of illusion and left only truth. It taught you the difference between being seen and being known, between success and significance. You don't measure your worth by outcomes anymore. You measure it by obedience. Now, peace follows you like a shadow, not the fragile kind that depends on calm circumstances, but the unshakable peace that comes from trusting divine order. You've seen God rebuild you once. You know He can do it again if needed. That's why fear no longer finds a home in you. You have become a living testimony that storms end, that silence speaks, that faith survives. The fire didn't take you, it refined you. The silence didn't erase you, it established you. And now, as you step forward, you carry a stillness that commands attention and a strength that can't be shaken. You've walked through what few could endure. But now the endurance has become empowerment. The tears that once felt wasted are now the oil of your anointing. You move differently because you've been through differently. And heaven looks upon you not with pity, but with pride because you endured well. There is a beauty in reaching this part of your journey, a quiet knowing that you have made it through the wilderness and now walk on holy ground. The air feels different here. Doesn't it? Lighter? Freer? You can finally breathe without the weight of yesterday sitting on your chest. The storms that once raged so loudly have faded into distant echoes, and in their place, you hear something softer, the rhythm of peace, the pulse of destiny calling your name. You look back and realize that the hardest parts of your story were never meant to destroy you. They were chisels in the hands of a careful sculptor, shaping the masterpiece you were always destined to become. Every tear, every delay, every unanswered question was a stroke on the canvas of divine design. And now, you stand not as one who barely survived, but as one who carries wisdom, endurance, and radiant strength. Heaven has seen your persistence. There were moments when no one clapped for you, yet you kept moving. There were nights when you cried silently, but still showed up in faith the next morning. You may not realize it, but that is what strength looks like. It's quiet, humble, steady. The Word of God reminds us in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, "Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not." And this, chosen one, is your due season. The seeds you planted in faith are beginning to sprout. The prayers you whispered in pain are now echoing as answers. You are stepping into the field of harvest, the one you tended with tears. Heaven did not forget your labor of love. It is returning multiplied, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. But here's a truth many overlook. Harvest is not only for keeping, it's also for sowing again. Every blessing carries a seed, and every seed carries the power to multiply light in the lives of others. That is how heaven's economy works. What you release in love returns in overflow. You see, this space we share these messages. These words are like lamps lit in the night. They burn to reach hearts that still wander in shadow. If this voice, this story, this truth has ever found you in a dark place, then you've already been part of something divine. If you feel led, If your heart whispers that these words have added warmth to your spirit, consider pouring a little oil back into the flame. Your donation, however small, becomes the drop of oil that keeps the light burning, not demanded, but freely offered, like a prayer in motion. Think of it not as obligation, but as breathing. You inhale encouragement. You exhale generosity. Just as rivers are fed by small streams, these messages continue because hearts like yours choose to keep the current flowing. Your support, your sharing, your encouragement, your giving becomes water for the seeds of others still waiting to bloom. And as for this message, if it stirred something within you, take a moment to like and share it. Let it be your way of sending a spark across the sky to someone else who still waits for dawn. Subscribe if your spirit finds rest here, so you won't miss the next wave of words meant to keep your fire alive. Please understand, nothing here is asked from pressure or guilt. You are not giving to earn favor, you already have it. You are giving to join hands with heaven, saying, "Let there be more light." And to those who can't give financially, your presence is still precious. Your prayer is a donation of faith. Your share is a seed of light. Your quiet amen is currency in heaven. Every act of faith, seen or unseen, builds this tapestry of light we are weaving together. Because the truth is, we rise higher when we lift together. The light you help sustain will one day return to you in ways you never imagined. And so, with gratitude, I say this not as demand, but as invitation. If this message has touched your life, let your response be an echo of love. Like, share, subscribe, or pour a drop of oil into the flame. Every small act becomes light to another soul still lost in the dark. Every act of light you release returns multiplied. A kind word, a prayer, a single spark shared online, it all becomes part of heaven's network of grace. You never know who might find hope through what your hands release today. Giving isn't losing, it's planting. Every seed of love you release will bloom in its own season, often where you least expect it. When you give, you tell heaven, "I trust your cycle of renewal." So keep your flame burning. Let your generosity, your words, your quiet faith ripple outward like sunlight on still water. The light you send will always find its way back home to you. The air feels different, now quieter, cleaner. Like heaven has cleared the atmosphere for something new. You've crossed through a season of completion. And though your heart carries the memory of what was lost, your spirit knows something deeper. It was all preparation. The ground beneath you has shifted, and every step now carries the weight of victory. You have outgrown the season that once confined you. There was a time when everything seemed to circle back to the same pain, the same lesson repeating until it almost broke you. But this time, it ended. The pattern snapped like a chain under the weight of your obedience. You said yes to growth even when it hurt. And heaven recorded that moment as breakthrough. You may not have seen it happen, but in the unseen, something irreversible shifted. The curse of repetition lifted. You've stepped into a space where peace flows like a quiet river. There's no rush anymore, no panic to prove or chase. You've learned that divine timing never runs late. Every delay was a setup for alignment. What once frustrated you now makes sense. You were being trained for balance, for patience, for trust. The Word of God speaks in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, Verse 1, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. This is your new time. The old clock stopped ticking the day you surrendered the struggle. The cycle that once returned year after year has ended for good. That's why the air feels lighter. It's the sound of chains no longer dragging behind you. You are free not just externally, but spiritually. You are standing in a field of new beginnings, and you can feel heaven's gentle breeze on your face. It's the same wind that once parted seas, the same whisper that called prophets into destiny. It's calling you now, not to fight, not to strive, but to step forward in quiet confidence. The lesson has been learned, the page has turned. The very areas where you used to stumble are now stable ground. The emotions that once controlled you no longer dictate your peace. That's maturity, the divine kind that only comes from pain that was allowed to teach instead of destroy. You are no longer reactive, you are reflective. The things that used to shake you now remind you how deeply you've been anchored. You have entered a new rhythm, one where discernment leads, not desperation. You move when heaven moves. Rest when heaven rests. You've stopped chasing and started attracting because your frequency has changed. You are no longer tuned to fear or lack, but to abundance and alignment. You no longer beg for signs. You are the sign, living proof of God's faithfulness in motion. Take a moment to notice what you feel inside. That calmness, that still assurance, it's not emptiness, it's completion. Heaven has closed the chapter of striving and opened the chapter of establishing. You don't have to look back to see if the past still follows. It doesn't. You've crossed the line. Everything you once waited for is now within reach. The promises that seemed delayed are accelerating toward you. But this time, you'll receive them differently. No longer from anxiety or fear of losing them, but from gratitude and stability. You're ready because you've learned the sacred art of surrender. You are no longer the version of yourself who begged for peace. You became peace. You're no longer chasing breakthrough. You are the breakthrough. That's why things that used to require your fight now flow with ease. The anointing has multiplied because you finally stopped resisting the process. And now, as a prophetic act, declare that this cycle of struggle, repetition, and confusion is over. Type the number 555 inches, the comments, not as superstition, but as symbolism. 5 represents grace. And when written 3 times, it means grace multiplied, grace upon grace. When you comment 555, you're declaring, I've learned the lesson. The season has closed. I receive multiplied grace for my next chapter. This isn't about numbers, it's about agreement. When you put your faith into action, you tell heaven, I understand. I'm ready. That simple act becomes a seal on your new beginning. Because, chosen one, the truth is this: your past no longer defines your direction. You have completed what others could not. The loops have ended. The tests have turned into testimonies. And your life is now a declaration of divine renewal. Walk forward without fear, without hesitation. The circle has become a straight path, and grace has paved it before you. Everything ahead of you carries favor. Everything behind you carries purpose. And everything within you carries peace. When you type 555, you're not just entering digits, you're echoing heaven's language of completion. It's your declaration that grace has tripled its covering over your journey. Let those numbers be your seal of gratitude. Each 5 whispers, "I've been refined, restored, and released." Together, they sing, "My new season has begun, and it will not repeat." There comes a point in every chosen one's journey when you stop running from the pain and start listening to what it was trying to teach you. You've reached that point. The noise has quieted, the battles have lessened, and your spirit finally understands that what once wounded you was also shaping you. It's a strange kind of peace, one that doesn't come from everything being perfect, but from realizing you don't need perfection to be whole. You've discovered that the fire you went through didn't just burn away what was false, it revealed what was real. The strength you now carry isn't something that can be taught, it's something that was born in you through endurance. The same fire that tried to consume you now bows to you. You are walking proof that pain can't define purpose, it can only refine it. There was a time when you questioned why certain doors closed so suddenly. You wondered why the things you prayed for didn't unfold the way you imagined. But now, looking back, you can see the divine pattern, the way God was protecting you from paths that would have led to exhaustion and emptiness. Some of the things you thought you lost were actually things heaven removed to make space for your expansion. You were never being punished, you were being purified. When you cried, heaven collected those tears. When you doubted, grace still covered you. Every unanswered prayer became a hidden blessing. Every delay, a divine setup. You were never behind schedule. You were right on time according to heaven's clock. It was recorded in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. That is the exchange happening within you right now, ashes into beauty, mourning into joy, heaviness into worship. You didn't come this far just to survive. You came this far to shine with a radiance that tells the world, I am evidence that God restores. You carry beauty that was forged through surrender. The world around you might still look uncertain, but inside, there is stability now. That's what true transformation feels like. The same situations that once triggered fear now awaken wisdom. You can stand in the middle of chaos and still find clarity. That is the kind of peace that cannot be imitated. It's divine, unexplainable, eternal. You've also learned that restoration isn't always loud. Sometimes it begins in the small, ordinary moments: a sunrise, a gentle conversation, a quiet sigh that no longer carries pain. Restoration doesn't always arrive as miracles. Sometimes it arrives as relief. You begin to smile again, not because everything's easy, but because you've rediscovered joy itself. This is the part of your story where you learn how to live again, not just exist. You start to rebuild dreams you once buried. You begin to trust again, not recklessly, but wisely. You realize that even though you lost time, God can redeem it. What seemed wasted has become fertilizer for something greater. Nothing was truly lost. Everything was transformed. You carry a peace that intimidates darkness. The same enemy that once mocked you now watches silently because it can no longer reach you. You've been elevated beyond the frequency of fear. You stand not as a victim of what happened, but as a vessel of what God can do through surrender. And here's the miracle: you no longer need closure for every question. You've learned to rest in mystery, to let unanswered things stay sacred. You've realized that faith is not knowing the whole plan, it's trusting the one who does. That understanding is what gives your spirit such quiet authority. Now your presence brings peace wherever you go. You are becoming a safe place for others because you've known what it feels like to be broken and healed. You are no longer walking with the same heaviness, you are walking with holy lightness. Everything that once weighed you down has turned into wisdom that lifts you higher. As you move forward, keep this awareness close. Your story is not over. The healing is not the end, it's the beginning of new creation. You are stepping into a rhythm of grace, a life where purpose flows naturally because it's no longer forced. You are aligned, anointed, and awakened, and every step you take now carries legacy. The peace you live in will ripple through generations. The words you speak will plant courage in others. The way you move through the world will be a sermon without words. That's the reward of those who endure. You become light that never dims, strength that never fades. You are living proof that ashes can bloom again. Every breath you take declares restoration. Every step whispers redemption. What once ended in sorrow now shines with divine purpose fulfilled. The storms have quieted, yet their memory still hums softly in your soul. It's not pain anymore, it's wisdom. You can look back at the roads you once dreaded and feel gratitude instead of grief. Those places, once filled with tears, now shimmer with traces of grace. You are no longer the person who entered the fire trembling. You are the one who walked out shining. You've begun to notice that peace doesn't mean a life without challenges, it means carrying stillness through them. You can stand in the middle of uncertainty and remain unshaken because you've already seen what survival looks like. You've proven to yourself that even when everything falls apart, you still rise. That realization alone changes how you move through the world. The days that once blurred together in weariness have become sacred memories. They are reminders of what endurance can birth. Every sleepless night taught you something different about the depth of your spirit. You learned that hope isn't fragile, it's resilient. You learned that even in silence, heaven speaks loudly through patience, through peace, through quiet strength. There was a time when you craved answers, but now you crave alignment. You no longer ask why as much as what now. You've shifted from questioning to listening, from striving to surrender. This is what it means to mature spiritually, not to know more, but to trust deeper. You have entered a season of divine rhythm. There is a flow to your days now, a calm movement that wasn't there before. You no longer chase what doesn't fit. And because of that, what is meant for you finds you easily. The constant tension you used to feel has dissolved. Now your energy moves like a gentle tide, steady, patient, guided. It is written in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 2, "Every branch in me that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit." That's what this season is about, not punishment, but pruning, not loss, but refinement. You are being prepared to produce at a higher level, not through effort, but through ease. The unnecessary has fallen away so that the essential can flourish. This is what divine order feels like: simple, clear, peaceful. You've learned to appreciate slowness. In a world addicted to speed, you've discovered the holiness of steady progress. You no longer feel behind because you finally understand that divine timing never rushes. When it's time, everything aligns effortlessly. That's why the peace you now feel is different. It's not situational, it's structural. It's built into who you've become. Even the people around you are shifting. Those who once drained you have drifted away, and in their place come souls who match your new frequency. You no longer attract chaos because you no longer live from it. Your healed energy repels what is false and draws what is true. That's how you know your transformation is real. It changes your atmosphere. The same voice that once begged for validation now speaks with quiet assurance. You don't need to prove your worth anymore. Your peace proves it for you. You've realized that the loudest thing in the room is not the voice that shouts, it's the heart that remains calm. There is new power in your presence. It's not the kind that intimidates, it's the kind that invites. People feel safe around you now because your spirit carries stability. You've become an anchor for others simply by standing still in truth. That's not arrogance, it's alignment. When you are rooted in God's rhythm, everything you touch becomes balanced. You've also come to understand that not every battle requires a response. You choose where to place your energy now. You know when to speak and when to be silent. You've learned that silence can heal more than words ever could. And because of that, peace follows you like a faithful shadow. This part of your journey is not about proving anything, it's about enjoying what's been built. You've fought your wars, learned your lessons, carried your cross, and now you are allowed to rest in the reward. Rest isn't idleness, it's restoration. It's God's way of saying, you've done well, now breathe. And as you breathe, notice how your spirit feels light, uncluttered, whole. That's not coincidence, that's completion. You've become a living picture of what happens when someone refuses to give up, even when the night seems endless. You're walking proof that surrender isn't failure, it's freedom. Keep this peace like a treasure. Guard it gently but firmly. Let it guide your steps and filter your words. You don't have to shout to be seen anymore. You don't have to fight to be valued. You are seen. You are valued. And most of all, you are established. The chapter you are living now is one of quiet glory. You don't need applause. You have awareness. You don't seek crowns. You carry presence. You've learned that the highest form of power is peace. And that's exactly what rests upon you now. The light that once flickered in you now burns steady. It's not the same fragile flame that needed constant protection. It's matured into something powerful, an inner fire that no storm can extinguish. You no longer fear the darkness because you've realized you were created to illuminate it. Everywhere you go, you carry quiet authority. The kind that doesn't demand attention but naturally shifts atmospheres. You used to wonder why your path was so lonely at times. Now you understand. Heaven separated you so your roots could grow deep, not wide. What you've built in secret is now bearing fruit in public. The people who once overlooked you are beginning to notice that something about you has changed. It's not arrogance, it's presence. You've been marked by peace, and peace is magnetic. Every challenge that used to throw you off balance now looks smaller when compared to the strength inside you. You've mastered something many never do, the ability to stay calm in chaos. When others panic, you pause. When others react, you reflect. That's not weakness, that's divine control. Heaven trained you for composure, and while others seek validation, you've learned to seek alignment. You understand that what's yours can't be taken, and what's not meant for you can't be forced. That's why you're no longer chasing outcomes, you're allowing them. You trust timing now because you've met the God of perfect timing. It is written in the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6. being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. That confidence is your foundation now. You no longer doubt if you're on the right path. You know you are. The detours, the delays, the disappointments, all of them were tools in heaven's workshop. Every twist and turn had purpose. What looked like wandering was actually preparation. You have reached a place where peace is your evidence. You don't need confirmation from anyone else when your spirit already knows. You sense when to move, when to stay, when to wait. It's as if heaven's rhythm beats inside your chest now, guiding every decision with clarity. That inner peace has become your compass, and it never points wrong. You're beginning to notice how everything you went through is being redeemed. The losses are returning as lessons, the silence as strategy, the pain as perspective. What once felt wasted has turned into wisdom. You are walking in divine restoration, the kind that doesn't just replace what was lost, but multiplies it with meaning. And this transformation didn't happen overnight. It took surrender, patience, and courage to let go of what was no longer aligned. But look at you now, standing firm, glowing softly, no longer afraid of uncertainty. You've stopped asking for the light at the end of the tunnel because you realized you are the light in the tunnel. You've become a mirror of grace, reflecting the calm of heaven in a restless world. People may not understand how you carry peace in the middle of pressure, but they will feel it. You don't have to explain your transformation. Your peace explains it for you. This is your confirmation nothing has been wasted, and nothing can be taken from what God has sealed. The process you endured wasn't punishment, it was positioning. You were never behind. You were being built. Every storm was a sculptor shaping the strength you walk in today. If your spirit recognizes this word, then seal it with a declaration. Type, "It is done." Write it not as repetition, but as revelation. When you type "It is done," you are speaking from completion, not striving. You are declaring that the work within you is established, that you trust the timing, and that every promise still unfolding will arrive exactly when it should. You're not asking for proof, you're standing in it. Because when heaven finishes something, it doesn't end in confusion, it ends in peace. And that's where you are now, on the other side of struggle. Walking in the quiet certainty that what was begun in grace will always end in glory. When you write, "It is done," you're not just repeating a phrase, you're echoing heaven's final word over your life. It's not wishful thinking, it's acknowledgement that what once broke you has already been turned for your good. The sentence becomes a seal on your testimony. Each time you say, "It is done," you remind your spirit that there is no need to strive anymore. You release control, trusting that what God began is already complete in the unseen. It's a statement of surrender and victory at once, a sacred whisper of peace that silences every lingering fear. So let those words flow not from anxiety, but from assurance. When you type them, imagine heaven nodding in agreement. The season of trying has ended, the season of thriving has begun. Truly, it is done. You've arrived at a place many dream of, reaching a space where your soul feels light. Your steps carry peace, and your heart finally beats in rhythm with purpose. It wasn't luck that brought you here, it was endurance. Every hard night, every unanswered prayer, every quiet surrender built the foundation for the calm you now live in. You didn't just stumble into peace, you earned it through perseverance and grace. The atmosphere around you feels different now. The battles have faded into lessons, the noise into melody. You can sense that heaven is no longer teaching you how to survive. It's teaching you how to steward what you've survived for. There's a difference. You're no longer clinging to hope, you're cultivating it. You're no longer praying from pain, you're speaking from promise. This is the transformation that only endurance can produce. When you look back, you can almost smile at the roads that once terrified you. You see now that even the most painful paths were lined with purpose. What you thought was detour was destiny in disguise. Each trial added depth to your compassion and clarity to your vision. You've become the person who no longer fears the unknown because you've met God there before and found Him faithful every time. It is revealed in the book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 13. I had fainted, unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. That goodness is what surrounds you now. You are living in the land of restoration, the space where joy is not delayed to heaven but experienced on earth. The tears you sowed have become rivers of gratitude. Every heartbreak was soil for a greater harvest. You now see why it had to happen the way it did, because every ending was secretly an opening. And as you stand here, breathing easier, I want you to realize something. The light that once healed you can now heal through you. These words, these moments, this connection, they are part of a divine flow. You are not just a listener, you're part of the message itself. Each heartbeat of faith keeps this stream of truth alive. If these words have ever lifted you, healed you, or simply reminded you that you're not alone, consider pouring back into the light that poured into you. Think of it as tending to a flame that has kept you warm in dark hours. Every donation, every act of kindness, is like placing another log on the fire so it keeps burning for those still finding their way through the night. But giving doesn't always mean money. Sometimes it's sharing a word. Sometimes it's whispering a prayer. Sometimes it's helping the message find the one who needs it most. When you like, share, or subscribe, you're not following an algorithm, you're sending out lanterns of hope across the digital sea. You're saying, may this reach another soul the way it reached me. And if your heart feels led to go further, to give, to contribute, do it not out of obligation, but out of gratitude. True generosity is like rain. It falls naturally when the clouds are full. Let what you give be the overflow of thankfulness, not the result of pressure. The most powerful giving always comes from peace, never from guilt. Maybe you can't give much. Maybe you can. Either way, it matters. A single drop still joins the ocean. A single spark still lights a room. A single act of kindness still shifts eternity for someone. What we build together is not just content, it's a movement of light, a sanctuary of words and presence for those who feel forgotten. If your spirit finds comfort here, if you felt heaven speak through these moments, then share this message like you would pass a torch to someone still walking through darkness. Let your share be a gesture of grace. Subscribe if you want to walk this journey longer, so that every word meant for your spirit will find you in its time. And if generosity is stirring in you, if gratitude whispers softly, give, then donate like you plant a seed. Don't count the soil or the sky, just trust the growth. The act itself becomes worship. Every seed sown into light always returns as light, multiplied and glowing. This isn't about earning favor, you already have it. It's about saying yes to being part of the cycle that healed you. When light comes to you, it's a gift. When it flows through you, it becomes legacy. And so, as you take in this moment, breathe deeply. Let peace fill every corner of your heart. Know that your presence here matters. Your faith keeps the flame alive. Your simple actions, liking, sharing, supporting, praying, are the gentle hands of heaven, carrying light farther than words alone could ever reach. Together, we keep this lamp burning, not for fame, not for numbers, but for souls who still wait for dawn. That's how we rise higher. That's how love multiplies. And that's how heaven moves through willing hearts. Quietly shining, freely giving, faithfully glowing. There's a stillness that follows victory. A sacred quiet that doesn't need to be explained. You feel it now, the peace that comes after the battle. The deep exhale of a soul that's been through the fire and found itself still standing. You're not in survival mode anymore, you're in restoration mode. The weight has lifted, and in its place rests a lightness that feels almost unfamiliar, but entirely right. You've stopped waiting for the next problem, stopped expecting something to go wrong. Instead, you've learned to trust that good things can stay. That's the difference between healing and wholeness. Healing repairs what was broken. Wholeness allows you to receive joy without fear of losing it. You've entered that place now, the one where gratitude flows freely and peace lingers like a gentle breeze after the rain. You used to measure your growth by visible change, what you accomplished, what you gained, who stayed. But now, your measure is internal. You celebrate stability, softness, patience. You rejoice not because everything is perfect, but because you finally feel safe in your own skin. The noise inside you has gone quiet. Your spirit no longer races, it rests. And in that rest, you've found revelation. You've realized that peace is not passive, it's powerful. It guards, guides, and grounds you. It's what allows you to walk through chaos without absorbing it. You can stand in the middle of storms and feel untouched because the calm within you is stronger than the storm around you. That's what spiritual maturity looks like, calm authority. The book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23, reminds us, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." You finally understand those words. You protect your peace not because you're defensive, but because you're discerning. You no longer let everything and everyone have access to your inner world. You choose carefully who enters your atmosphere because you know that your peace is precious, too sacred to be wasted on chaos. You've also realized that boundaries aren't barriers, they're blessings. They're how love stays healthy. You can say no now without guilt. You can walk away without resentment. And you can love people from afar without losing your kindness. This is not hardness, this is wisdom. It's knowing that peace is not something you chase, it's something you maintain. Every decision you make now is guided by alignment, not approval. You no longer move just to be seen. You move when heaven says move. That's why your life feels different. It's no longer ruled by reaction, but by revelation. You're led by peace. And where peace leads, prosperity follows, not just in material things, but in mind and soul. You've also learned that joy doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's a quiet cup of coffee in the morning, a moment of laughter that feels simple but holy. Sometimes it's the silence of a sunset or the smile of someone who truly sees you. These are not small moments, they're sacred evidence that you've shifted from surviving life to savoring it. What once drained you now barely stirs you. The same things that used to shake your confidence now strengthen it. You've learned how to stand still and let the wind pass through instead of fighting it. That's peace in its highest form, unmoved, unbothered, unwavering. There's a glow to you now, a calm that can't be faked. It's the kind of radiance that only comes from the inside, from knowing you've walked through every valley and come out with your integrity intact. You've become your own evidence that God finishes what He starts. This season is about stewardship, caring for what you prayed for. You no longer beg for blessings, you nurture them. You don't chase open doors, you build within the ones you've already entered. You are no longer living from lack, but from overflow. You understand now that peace itself is wealth. You've stopped asking, "When will it be my turn?" because you finally realize it already is. You are living inside what you once prayed for. Maybe it doesn't look exactly as you imagined, but it feels better than you expected. It feels whole. It feels like home. And in this wholeness, you find that gratitude becomes your default. Every morning feels like a soft miracle. Every breath, a reminder that life itself is divine. You are no longer surviving days, you are inhabiting them. You have turned existence into worship. That's the quiet glory of peace. It doesn't shout. It simply shines. You are shining now, not with noise, but with knowing. You've become living proof that peace is not found, it's built. Moment by moment, choice by choice, grace by grace. Peace has become your language now. You no longer need to explain yourself to be understood. Your calm presence speaks volumes. Everywhere you go, tranquility follows like light trailing dawn. You are whole, and wholeness radiates silently. This is your reward: rest without fear, joy without condition, faith without striving. You've come home to yourself, and that is sacred. The air around you carries a different kind of stillness, now an awareness that something has settled. Something has been sealed. You've come through so much, but what used to break you no longer has power. You walk through familiar spaces, yet everything feels new, almost weightless. That's what deliverance feels like, not loud or dramatic, but quiet, complete, holy. You've been through valleys where your prayers sounded like whispers and mountains where silence felt like a companion. You've seen enough darkness to recognize light even in its smallest flicker. That's why your faith now runs deeper than words. It's no longer based on what you see, it's anchored in what you know. And what you know is that God never leaves His chosen ones unfinished. This peace you carry wasn't handed to you, it was refined in fire. It's the kind of peace that has seen storms and still dares to believe in clear skies. You are walking evidence that grace is not fragile. It doesn't disappear when life gets hard. It grows stronger, wider, steadier. You are proof that divine restoration is possible even after ruin. There was a time when you felt like you were constantly starting over. Every time you built something, the ground shook. Every time you trusted, it cracked. But now you can see it wasn't destruction. It was construction. Heaven was laying new foundations under your feet, stronger than the ones before. You were being rebuilt to carry more weight, more light, more glory. As it is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19, "Behold, I will do a new thing, now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness, and rivers in the desert. That verse isn't distant history, it's your reality now. The wilderness has become a path, the desert a stream. You're walking through places that once drained you, and instead of thirst, you find abundance. What was once dry is now fertile ground. Heaven has made a way, not around the hardship, but through it. And in walking through, you discovered who you truly are. This moment in your story is not about fighting anymore, it's about flowing. You've moved from warfare to wisdom, from striving to serenity. You now move with purpose and precision. Every step is intentional because it's guided by peace, not pressure. You've learned to trust the still, small voice over the loud, fearful ones. And now, heaven whispers, it's time for the new thing to begin. This isn't a restart, it's a resurrection. The dreams that once seemed buried are breathing again. The opportunities that felt lost are resurfacing. But this time, you're ready. You know how to carry them without fear, without rushing, without losing yourself. This is your rebirth season. You are not who you were, and you're not who you used to fear becoming. You are the healed version, the wiser, softer, stronger version. Everything that once intimidated you now serves you. Every lesson that once hurt you now honors you. And because this new chapter is about divine flow, heaven is calling you to mark this moment not for memory, but for movement. Type the number 222 inches, the comments. Let it be your prophetic symbol of agreement, balance, and divine partnership. 2 is the number of alignment when written 3 times. It becomes a declaration. Heaven, earth, and your spirit are now in sync. When you write 222, you're saying, I agree with heaven's new beginning for me. I'm aligned with peace, purpose, and promise. You're not asking anymore, you're acknowledging. You're confirming that what God is doing in your life is already underway. This isn't just about numbers, it's about symbolism. The act of commenting becomes an act of confirmation. You're anchoring what your heart already knows to be true, that your wilderness season is over and your rivers are beginning to flow. Because truly, chosen one, everything has shifted. The tide has turned in your favor. The dryness has ended. And what lies ahead isn't struggle, it's steady growth, overflowing grace, and divine restoration. You are walking into a season where miracles feel natural because your spirit finally matches heaven's rhythm. Type it not as routine, but as Revelation 222, a number that sings of harmony, completion, and divine order restored. When you type 222, you're not performing a ritual, you're responding to revelation. Those 3 digits represent agreement between heaven and your heart. A sacred alignment where purpose and peace finally walk hand in hand. Each 2 stands for partnership, your spirit with God's will, your heart with divine timing, your steps with grace. When repeated, it becomes a rhythm, a steady echo of trust that says, I am in sync with heaven's plan. So write it with awareness, not habit. Let 222 be your quiet yes to a new flow of blessings, your symbol that balance has returned. You're not chasing miracles anymore, you're living inside one. The newness around you feels almost fragile, like morning light touching the earth after a long night. But you're learning that this softness isn't weakness, its power wrapped in peace. You've stepped into a chapter where your heart leads with calm authority, not fear. The strength that once looked like fighting now looks like resting. The proof of maturity is not in how loudly you pray, but in how deeply you trust. You no longer wake up expecting struggle, you wake up expecting grace. Each morning feels like a quiet promise fulfilled, a reminder that you've entered into rhythm with heaven. You've stopped trying to control outcomes because you've realized peace isn't found in what happens, but in how you respond to what happens. That shift has changed everything. The people around you may not understand this version of you. They may miss the version that over-explained, that hurried, that apologized for shining. But this you, this grounded, serene you, has learned to move with grace, not guilt. You've learned that gentleness is not a downgrade from strength, it's its highest form. You no longer confuse stillness with stagnation or silence with surrender. You understand now that peace is power disguised as quiet. Everywhere you go, your energy speaks before you do. The same presence that once trembled under pressure now radiates assurance. People feel safe around you not because you're perfect, but because you're whole. You carry an atmosphere of calm that no words can manufacture. It's the fragrance of someone who has made peace with their past and chosen to walk forward unburdened. According to what is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 7, rest in the Lord, and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way. You've taken that verse to heart. Resting no longer feels like laziness to you. It feels like loyalty to divine timing. You've discovered that waiting is not wasting when you're waiting with faith. You no longer compare your pace to anyone else's because you understand heaven's plan for you doesn't require competition. It requires consistency. You've stopped measuring success by noise or speed. Now, it's measured in peace, in presence, in the simple beauty of knowing that you are exactly where you're meant to be. The old rush has left you. In its place, life's rhythm. You move when heaven moves. You pause when heaven pauses. And you no longer panic in the silence between instructions. You've come to see that grace has its own timing, slow, deliberate, certain. It never misses. It never rushes. That realization has softened you, taught you to exhale, to stop fighting life and start flowing with it. There's power in this surrender, a holy kind of strength that makes you both gentle and unshakable at once. And through it all, something extraordinary has happened. You've begun to see yourself differently. You no longer define your worth by productivity, people, or perfection. You define it by peace. You've learned that it's possible to do less but be more, to stay unseen yet still significant. The applause you once sought from others now comes from within, echoed by heaven's quiet, well done. Your prayers have changed too. They're less about asking and more about aligning, less about getting and more about becoming. You pray not from desperation but from communion. You don't chase signs anymore. You live as one. And in that maturity, you've found that heaven doesn't have to shout to get your attention. It only needs to whisper. Your faith has turned from emotion into posture. You no longer ride the highs and lows of circumstance because your roots go deep. When winds come, they don't uproot you, they refresh you. You've stopped seeing trials as threats and started seeing them as training. The peace inside you now is not delicate, it's tested. Its armor disguised as calm. This is the hidden reward of those who don't give up, the unexplainable serenity that comes after endurance. You have entered into the kind of peace that cannot be stolen, only shared. You no longer beg for blessings, you breathe them. You don't look for open doors anymore, because you are the door wherever you go. Favor follows, and now, each day unfolds like quiet poetry. You wake, you listen, you move, you rest. You no longer question whether you're doing enough, because your spirit knows you are in divine flow. You don't chase purpose, you host it. You've become a dwelling place for grace itself. There's beauty in how far you've come. The pain that once defined your story has turned into the soil that grows your peace. The person who once searched for meaning now walks in it. You've realized that the truest victory isn't in escaping pain, it's in transforming it into purpose. And that, chosen one, is exactly what you've done. You no longer live waiting for the storm, you walk beneath clear skies. Peace has become your permanent weather, and grace your gentle sun. Everything within you whispers, "It is well." You can sense it now, the gentle unfolding of peace that has settled deep within you. It doesn't come with noise or spectacle, but with quiet assurance, the kind that can only be born through endurance. This peace doesn't need to announce itself, it simply is. It fills the space where fear used to live, turning what was once heavy into something holy. You used to wait for big signs, dramatic answers, or thunderous confirmations. But now you know that God's most powerful movements are often silent. You've come to understand that heaven doesn't always speak through miracles, it speaks through moments. Through a sunrise that greets you tenderly, through laughter that returns after years of silence, through a stillness that feels like home. You've entered a sacred rhythm with time. The same days that once felt repetitive now feel purposeful. Every sunrise carries invitation, and every sunset whispers completion. You no longer rush your mornings or dread your nights. You've learned to see God in the ordinary, to recognize holiness in the humble. Your days are no longer measured by how much you do, but by how deeply you feel peace. It is said in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." That rest is what you live in now, not as escape, but as empowerment. Rest doesn't mean doing nothing, it means doing everything from a place of trust. You move through life with grace, not striving. You've traded exhaustion for ease, tension for trust. What used to drain you now refines you, and what once overwhelmed you now aligns with you. You've begun to understand that stillness is strength. The world confuses chaos for progress, but you've learned that true transformation happens in silence. When the noise fades, clarity emerges. You've stopped chasing what was never meant to be yours and started nurturing what's already in your hands. This awareness has changed everything. It's turned daily life into sacred practice. Even your relationship with time has shifted. You no longer wrestle with delays because you've learned that divine timing is never off. Every waiting season shaped your patience, sculpted your perspective, and strengthened your foundation. You've discovered that not getting what you wanted was often the kindest answer God could give. The peace inside you has made you more discerning. You recognize energy before words, motives before actions. You can see truth without confrontation because wisdom now lives in your silence. You don't correct everything you see anymore because you know peace doesn't prove itself. It simply stands. You've become anchored, immovable, quietly confident. There is a subtle radiance about you now, the glow of someone who has met themselves in both fire and still water. You've faced loss, endured loneliness, and yet here you are whole. That's what makes your peace unshakable. It's been tested. You no longer need to explain your calm or justify your joy. Both are your inheritance. You carry compassion differently too. You no longer try to fix others. You hold space for them. You listen without judgment, love without fear, and offer presence instead of perfection. You've realized that the greatest gift you can give isn't advice, it's peace. When people stand near you, they feel safety because you've learned to become what you once needed. This phase of your journey is about presence. You're no longer looking back at who you were or ahead to who you might be. You're resting in who you are now, enough, equipped, and established. You've stopped striving for validation because your existence itself is evidence of divine design. You're not waiting for peace anymore. You are peace. Even the way you breathe has changed. It's slower, deeper, intentional. You've stopped holding your breath, waiting for the next storm. Now, every inhale is gratitude. Every exhale, release. The tension that once gripped your shoulders has melted into serenity. You've learned that peace is not something you keep, it's something you become. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: you no longer see endings as losses. You've learned that every closure is just another chapter of continuation. You don't cling to what's passing, you bless it and let it go. Because you've realized that anything leaving your life is simply making space for what's meant to stay. Peace has turned you into a quiet warrior, gentle but unbreakable. You move with grace through transitions, with gratitude through changes, and with faith through uncertainty. You've found the art of being both grounded and growing at once. The storms still come, but now they can't touch the core of who you are. You've become the calm after your own storm, the sunrise after your own night. You are no longer defined by what happened to you, but by what grew within you. The sound of peace now echoes where pain used to speak. You've become living evidence that rest is not weakness, it's divine strength disguised as stillness. You've reached the place where your story no longer trembles when it's told. The chapters that once made you cry now bring you peace. You can finally read your own history without feeling the sting, because you've learned what every chosen one eventually does. That healing doesn't erase the past, it redeems it. You've made peace with what you couldn't control and found purpose in what tried to break you. That's why your presence feels different now. It carries the fragrance of restoration. The storms taught you, but they don't define you. The pain shaped you, but it doesn't hold you. You've become a garden grown from ashes, proof that beauty doesn't bloom despite suffering, but through it. You are walking redemption, a story rewritten by grace. And now, your task is not to rebuild what was, but to nurture what's new. Each day feels quieter but fuller. You no longer rush for outcomes, you move in rhythm with divine timing. You understand that everything unfolds at the exact moment it's meant to. Even delays now look like protection. Even silence feels like strategy. You no longer panic when doors close, you smile, knowing heaven is editing your path with precision. As spoken in the second book of Corinthians, chapter 9, verse 8, "And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work." That grace is flowing through you now. It sustains you, nourishes you, and multiplies through you. You've moved from being filled to becoming a vessel, someone through whom goodness travels. touching everything it encounters. The peace that once saved you now spills out of you, touching others like sunlight across still water. And perhaps you've noticed this space, these words, this shared stillness. They're not just messages, they're mirrors. Each one reflects the light already within you. When you return here, you're not merely listening, you're remembering who you are. These words only awaken what heaven planted long ago. If these moments have ever met you in the quiet and whispered hope, then think of them as a small flame, gentle, glowing, steady, and if your heart feels full, you can help the flame continue. When you like or share this message, it's like opening a window in a darkened room, letting the light spill further. Someone, somewhere, is waiting for that beam of warmth, that reminder that peace still exists. To subscribe is like planting a tree near a river. You choose to stay close to what feeds you, to let your spirit grow beside the steady stream of truth. It's not a duty, it's devotion to your own growth. A quiet promise that you'll keep choosing peace even when the world forgets how. And if gratitude stirs deeper, if you feel the gentle tug of giving, then let your donation be rain upon this garden. Each drop, no matter how small, nourishes roots. You can't yet see messages that will bloom in hearts you may never meet. You're not buying blessings, you're cultivating them. Every act of generosity keeps the soil fertile for hope to grow again and again. You see, this isn't about obligation, it's about overflow. When light reaches you, it longs to travel through you. That's how heaven circulates goodness, through hands that give freely, through hearts that stay open. Whether your offering is a kind word, a prayer, a share, or a seed of support, it all becomes part of this divine current of renewal. Think of it this way: each time you give light, you receive more of it. Each time you share peace, it multiplies. Your like is a ripple, your share, a wave, your support, a tide that carries hope to distant shores. There's poetry in generosity. It teaches us that love was never meant to be stored, only sown. And if something in these words resonates deep within you, leave a comment below, not as noise, but as a seed. Every written thought becomes another petal in this growing garden of peace. Your words might be the gentle echo someone else needs to hear. Proof that healing is possible. Write what peace feels like to you. Let your sentence become a soft light for the next soul passing through. So if this message has settled softly into your soul, let your response be as gentle and sincere as your gratitude. Like it if it found you at the right time. Share it if it spoke words you couldn't say aloud. Subscribe if you wish to keep walking this sacred path of renewal. Give if peace whispers, I want to help this light travel farther. No one asks it of you. It's an invitation, not a requirement, a dance between your heart and heaven's rhythm. Because this light we share isn't owned, it's carried. And when you carry it forward through kindness, through contribution, through connection, you keep the circle of grace alive. Let's keep the flame moving, not by force, but by faith. Every small gesture becomes a spark, every spark a torch, and every torch a sunrise for someone still lost in night. There is a peace that comes after long obedience, a quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove anything. You are standing in that peace now. It's not loud or glittering. It doesn't demand to be noticed. It simply rests, steady as sunlight through the window after rain. You have become what you once prayed to feel, calm, grounded, certain. And it's not because everything around you is perfect, but because you've learned to stay unshaken no matter what shifts. You no longer chase control, you welcome flow. You've realized that life, like the wind, cannot be held in your hands. You've learned to dance with it instead of resist it. That's why your days have begun to carry a gentle rhythm, one that feels both peaceful and powerful at once. The things that once overwhelmed you now pass through you like waves against a rock that refuses to move. You've discovered that peace doesn't mean the absence of storms, it means knowing who you are within them. You're not the same person who used to panic at uncertainty. You've learned to stand still, to breathe, to wait, to listen. You've discovered that patience is not weakness, it's strategy. The waiting season wasn't punishment, it was preparation for peace that lasts. You no longer need to shout your progress or defend your decisions. You've become fluent in the language of quiet assurance. You move with intention, not impulse. You speak less but mean more. You've realized that truth doesn't need volume, it needs consistency. Your actions have become your testimony, and your peace has become your protection. As declared in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. You've seen those words come alive in your own story. The chaos you thought would destroy you ended up becoming the bridge that carried you closer to grace. The delays that once frustrated you revealed timing you couldn't see. The heartbreaks that tore you apart opened the space needed for healing to grow. It wasn't random, it was refinement. Every hardship taught you how to trust without proof, to love without conditions, and to rest without fear. You've become the kind of person who no longer prays for easy days but for steady hearts. You've learned that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply refuses to quit. You can now look at the mirror and see a survivor who has evolved into a sanctuary. Your presence brings comfort because it carries the echo of peace you fought for. You've also learned to forgive not just others, but yourself. The weight of guilt that once clung to you has finally lifted. You understand now that forgiveness is not forgetting, it's freeing. You've released the idea that you could have done better if you'd known more. Because now you know that every choice, every misstep, was part of the molding. You were being shaped by unseen hands into someone wiser, softer, and stronger. The future no longer frightens you. You've made peace with uncertainty because you trust the one who writes the next line. You've stopped trying to predict outcomes. Instead, you prepare your heart to receive them. That shift has turned anxiety into anticipation. You're not afraid of what's coming anymore, you're ready for it. Even the way you see time has changed. You no longer measure success by how fast things happen, but by how true they feel. You understand that waiting isn't delay, it's divine pacing. Everything that belongs to you will find you at the exact moment you are ready to hold it. You don't chase what's yours, you attract it through stillness. Now, the peace that surrounds you has become a teacher. It shows you when to move and when to stay, when to speak and when to stay silent. You don't waste energy convincing anyone of your worth because your presence already proves it. You are living proof that when you choose surrender over struggle, peace becomes your natural state. This stage of your journey is not about chasing light, it's about being light. You've learned that wholeness doesn't shout for attention, it simply shines. Wherever you go, you bring the atmosphere of restoration with you. People don't always understand it, but they feel it. You've become a living reflection of grace in motion. You no longer carry the past as pain but as purpose. The scars no longer ache, they remind you of where grace met you. Every part of your story, even the ones you once wished away, now glows with redemption. That's how you know you're healed, not because it never hurts, but because it no longer controls you. So walk gently in this peace. It's not fragile, it's sacred. You earned it. You tended to it. And now you carry it. You are not searching for balance anymore. You've become balance. And that realization is the truest evidence of victory. There is a quiet glow that surrounds the soul when it finally understands why everything had to happen exactly as it did. You've arrived at that understanding not through reasoning, but through revelation. The path you once questioned now looks perfect in its imperfection. Every broken piece fits. Every delay has purpose. Every silence carries meaning. You no longer ask, "Why me?" Instead, you whisper, "Thank you for choosing me." You've walked through fire, and it didn't destroy you, it refined you. The heat revealed who you truly are: resilient, radiant, rooted. You came out of it lighter, clearer, more certain of your identity in God. What once felt like chaos now feels like choreography. Every twist and turn was leading you to this still place where everything within you finally agrees with heaven's rhythm. This peace is not passive, it's powerful. It's the kind that builds cathedrals inside your heart, where faith sings softly even when life grows quiet. You've learned that the presence of God is not only found in miracles, but in the mundane, in the steady breath, in the sound of your own heartbeat, in the sacred simplicity of being alive. Heaven speaks in subtleties now. You no longer need signs in the sky to feel His nearness. You sense it in the details, the way the sunlight touches your skin, the way forgiveness feels lighter each day, the way joy sneaks in when you least expect it. You used to look for evidence of God's love in answered prayers. Now, you see it everywhere. As written in the book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10, "Be still, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth." You have become still, not motionless, but trusting. That verse has turned from words on a page into a rhythm in your spirit. Stillness no longer feels like waiting, it feels like knowing. You've learned that peace is not the absence of movement, but the presence of assurance. You no longer fight time, you walk with it. You no longer chase clarity, you embody it. The storms you've endured have turned into songs of wisdom. Every tear has become oil for your anointing. Every heartbreak, a new lens through which you see beauty differently. You no longer mourn what left. You bless it. You've realized that some things weren't meant to stay forever, they were meant to awaken forever within you. Your journey has come full circle. The person who once prayed for strength has become strength itself. The one who asked for peace now lives as its carrier. The one who longed for purpose now walks in it with quiet confidence. The lesson has been learned, and the growth cannot be undone. You've stopped striving to prove your worth because you finally see it was never something to earn, it was something to remember. You were chosen not because of perfection, but because of potential. Every moment you thought was wasted has been redeemed. The tapestry of your life, once frayed and uneven, now weaves into something whole and radiant. You can look back now and smile, not with pride, but with gratitude. The pain didn't win. The darkness didn't define you. You walked through it all and emerged glowing with gentleness instead of bitterness, compassion instead of resentment. That is true victory, the kind that needs no spotlight, only sincerity. And as you stand here, in the calm of completion, you know there's no need to rush ahead. What's meant for you will find you, effortlessly, because you're already aligned. You don't need to ask for open doors anymore, they're already swinging wide. You've stopped begging for signs, you've become one. You've also realized something even deeper, that peace isn't just your portion, it's your purpose. Wherever you go, it multiplies. Whoever encounters you feels it. You are now the evidence of what divine restoration looks like when it's finished. You are no longer seeking wholeness, you are wholeness, moving through the world with quiet certainty. There is a holy finality in this moment, not an ending, but a fulfillment. The wilderness has turned into a garden, the tears into testimony, the silence into song. Everything that was broken has been mended, not perfectly, but beautifully. And now, your spirit stands at peace with all it has ever been. You are free completely, deeply, quietly free. The journey that once wore you down has now built you up. You are the living proof that grace never wastes pain, that love always restores, and that peace truly does surpass understanding. You have reached the horizon of becoming, where endings dissolve into beginnings, and peace flows like eternal light. Nothing is missing, nothing broken, only wholeness remains, radiant and calm. Walk onward gently, chosen one. Let your stillness speak where words once struggled. You are the testimony, the answered prayer, the calm after every storm. And now, as this journey closes, let your heart rest in the stillness you've found here. What you've walked through in these words isn't just reflection, it's remembrance. You've remembered your strength, your purpose, your divine rhythm. Every line that spoke to you was heaven's gentle way of saying, you made it. The peace that fills you now isn't borrowed, it's yours. It was always yours. If these words have met you in the quiet, if they've reminded you that you're not walking alone, then let them ripple outward. When you like and share this message, it's like releasing light into the world, a spark that might land in someone else's darkness and show them the way home. Sometimes, a single share becomes the miracle another heart was praying for. Leave a comment below, not for attention, but for connection. Write what peace feels like to you. Write what healing sounds like. Your words may become the bridge for someone else to cross their pain. In this space, every comment is a seed, every thought a flower that blooms in unseen gardens. And if this sanctuary of words has brought you warmth, if you felt grace brush against your spirit, then subscribe not as a follower, but as a companion on the same path. Stay close to the current that keeps your light steady. Lastly, if gratitude whispers softly inside you, let your donation be your way of watering this field of light. Not from pressure, never from guilt, but from joy. Every gift, no matter how small, helps the flame travel farther, reaching souls who still wait for morning. Together, we've built something sacred here, a quiet fire, a circle of peace. Let's keep it glowing.